Brian and Spencer, thanks so much for the time today to talk through your experiences with Aclaimant, your experiences with Exxel Pacific, and we're continuing this fireside chat conversation that we've had with a multitude of our customers. We really appreciate you two taking the time. Wanted to start with a conversation about each of you and how you got to where you are today. So would love it if, Brian, you could start with an introduction of yourself, talk a bit about your background and your role, and then Spencer will have you do the same.
Sure. Brian Sorenson, Director of Safety with Exxel Pacific. How I got into safety is about 20 years ago, going through a degree program at Central, but I didn't really have the mind of growing up to be a safety professional. I was actually in the education program and decided that I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more. So I had a buddy who was in safety at the time. He says, look, you can still fulfill your love of educating people. You're just educating adults on safety. So I quickly made the change into safety and kind of grew to love it and kind of took the construction route because my dad owned a residential home business. It was very easy for me to get into the mindset of doing construction safety. And then through my career, been with large international contractors such as Skanska and Balfour Beatty, and then have been at Exxel for the last 6 years, but been as a safety professional almost 20 years, and then as a director for about 13, and covered many types of different work from heavy civil construction to large commercial towers and buildings like that. Been a subcontractor over my career and actually worked for a stint for the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission. So I have a lot of interesting experience, but utilizing that all now in our multifamily market with Exxel. That's primarily what we do. And then we have some other divisions doing healthcare and other scopes of work.
Fantastic. Spencer?
Yeah, so Spencer Workman, safety manager with Exxel Pacific. I'm a little bit of a similar story in going to Central and feeling I'm set on this path to do this specific major, really not even knowing that occupational safety and health management was a thing. Summer of my freshman year, I start working for this oil tank service repair company just local to me. And you start to see some of these risks being taken as you're working for a small business, you're really concerned about the bottom line. It's all about quick. And I started becoming aware of a lot of safety hazards in the workplace. And all of a sudden, that occupational safety degree starts speaking to you a little more. You start understanding where you can make a difference in a small business like that. And then, so I ended up moving forward with that degree. And I actually met Brian while I was over there at Central. And we've been in lockstep ever since.
Fantastic. Love the stories and love to get a better sense of Exxel Pacific and the things that y'all are both doing in terms of the challenges you're facing on a regular basis. So would love for you to each discuss one challenge that you have faced at Exxel Pacific and how you've been able to work with Aclaimant to address those challenges. Brian?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I first got here, quickly hired Spencer to come join me over here. We recognized within probably 6 months that the system had really not been modernized or redeveloped in a way into kind of what really helps people, especially the new generation, execute and process safety management within the field. We started with our whole safety program and really just updated it. It hadn't been updated in about 12 years, just kind of modernized it, made shareable links and ability just to work within the system and make things easier. But we quickly saw an advantage with going digital with a lot of our paperwork. We were on a kind of a hunt looking through a majority of different program providers and landed with Aclaimant from a sense that we saw a huge barrier with the acceptance of a digital program, especially with people who've been here for 20 plus years and really being stuck in this mode of just doing the paperwork form. So a big barrier we thought is people are not going to one that we're making this change. So how can we make it easier? So we wanted to make sure we could customize all of our forms and make them look very similar to the paperwork version to hopefully minimize that barrier and reduce people's hesitancy to using a digital form. That's one reason we landed with Aclaimant was that customization, an ability to work with their staff to make it exactly how we want it, from the process flow to the look to the design of the forms, and the output was really important to us and definitely helped, I think, allow people to start trying it and utilizing it.
Yeah, I think Brian touched on just looking at attempting to really modernize a system that has already been working. You know, Excel has a really strong safety culture of people that have been here for a very long time that are performing really well. But how do you take somebody like that and modernize that? And part of what we were looking for is in a paper age where you're generating a ton of different paperwork on every project every single day, you're cataloging all that, you're saving it into a file structure. But at what point does somebody comb through every piece of documentation and gather the statistics from that? And not only to get that far, but then to look at that and say, okay, what are we going to do about it? Whereas what Acclaimant really does for us is it catalogs all of those data points, that end of shift inspection. What are we commonly finding? Where are our most common injury locations happening? What day of the week? All of that kind of stuff that would have taken a lot of labor for somebody to perform. We're now able to have it right at our fingertips in an instant. And that was something we were really looking for is how can we actually find trends and then work towards doing something about it?
Yeah, because everything before going through that process just made it a lagging indicator at the end of the day. And whereas real time analytics down to a project level, corporate wide, we can make adjustments on the fly, whether it's updating policy, updating forms, just different types of training and execution to try to reduce the risk and hopefully eliminate it.
Brilliant. And Brian, I think that comment you made associated with change management is so important and often left out of the conversation when individuals are talking about the process of digitization. So it sounds like the first step was to replicate what individuals were doing in paper and in Excel in terms of the experience of the field user as near as possible. And then it sounds like over time you've evolved that process and ensured that you're capturing the right information at the right time in order to make a difference. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Not only replicate it, but replicate it and make it faster and easier, where people can be out in the field with their mobile app. Spencer and I have discussed it's not taking somebody into the office to fill out some paperwork. You can do it right out there in the field, make people a part of the incident investigation, utilizing your mobile device to take pictures as part of that accident investigation right in real time, not running back and forth and losing data potentially as well. I know that's been a huge thing for if we ever go through a regulatory inspection, is we have to turn over reports and paperwork very quickly. And the ability just to go right to a job site, find their weekly safety walk, any disciplinary records that have happened out the course of that job, it's all right there at our fingertips, and we can get it cataloged, get it off to the regulatory agency. We've turned inspections around in 6 hours for a 6-month document request that would typically take 3 to 4 days just to gather all the actual pieces of paper and information to get over. We can just quickly go in, find what we need, and get it off. And that looks really good in the regulatory agency's eyes too, that we can quickly get it, quickly hand it over, and are transparent in that respect.
Yeah, I think for our specific situation, Tom, it was really important that we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
We weren't in a situation to do that. We're in a situation to take the wheel we have, make it faster, make it go further. And I feel like we found that with Acclaimant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Just like Spencer alluded to, and it was a great culture to come be a part of. It was just what are those little tweaks and things that we can modernize it and make it a little bit better and build on the foundation that was already here.
Brilliant. And we love the partnership, and it's been so important to us. In terms of when this journey began, fall of 2022, is that correct?
Yep.
And in terms of your considerations of other applications and other solutions, do you have a sense of what else is out there and how Climate keeps up?
Yeah, absolutely. We looked through a lot of different system providers. I alluded to it earlier about one of the main reasons was the customization with Acclaimant, but cost was another big factor, especially coming out of COVID in a down market. Cost was a monumental thing. Acclaimant was very cost effective for us. And this working with their staff over the years has been great. Just the ability to figure things out, because as you're trying to build out your process, it's not some canned thing that you buy off the shelf, right? You're getting down into how it reports out to specific individuals or different user groups within the system. It was really important to have the Claimant staff, who was great, always being there and coming up with some of our crazy ideas and into the future too, as we start to build new forms and working through other systems that we think Acclaimant can help us be swifter and better with. And then on the back end, like we talked about earlier, getting those analytics is so important in real time so we can make that shift whenever it's necessary.
And in terms of the future, your goals as you continue to build these things out, are there certain things that we haven't touched on yet that you're going to be focused on as pertains aligning with your goals and ensuring that Acclaimant's meeting your needs?
I think that in the safety world, there's always the goal of getting down to zero, right? We want to reduce our incident rates. We want to do all of that kind of stuff. And that is an honorable goal. I think for us, now that we are in a position where we have all of this awesome data that's right at our fingertips that is specific to each project and each scope, we're really looking to find ways utilizing our safety committee and things like that to take action, make change. Let's not just have data and not do anything with it. Let's use the data because we have it live in real time. It's real numbers. I think that looking at things like you mentioned earlier, maybe we shift around our dates and times that we would normally do our weekly toolbox talks, our safety meetings. If we can nail down certain body parts that are typically affected by injury, we can look to find different ergonomic work practices or administrative controls to help eliminate those. So those are the areas that we're trying to focus on, I think.
Yeah, just look at the analytics dashboard that Claimant provides. The date and time of incident is something that stuck out to us. It was like, that is really bizarre that we're having 70% of our incidents on a Wednesday around this time. Having that ability just to recognize that, which you might not ever find just coming through old paperwork data, right there in your face. Hey, let's make a shift. Some jobs did that, like Spencer said, shifted their safety meeting to a Wednesday to try to counteract that, and it worked. There's been other through safety committee, like looking at hand lacerations. That's been a trend recently. How do we mitigate that as a proper planning? And then we can go back into each incident investigation and look at all the programs that our subcontractors had where they should have been doing something differently. And it wasn't like, hey, we have to add gloves. It's like, no, based off our incident investigations, it's just a training issue that they're not following the plan that they put in place originally. So it saved us some money in that way, where some companies may just say, hey, blanket 100% gloves, PPE, where we could really look down at that detailed data through those incident investigations and find what the root cause was. Some other things we're looking at are significant injuries right now, head protection and how to reduce exposures there. Many things through our JST at the site level and then corporately at our safety committee. We utilize analytics for all of that. And it's just great to have that real-time data. I know supervision loves it in the field. They're utilizing it on a monthly basis, and then that's steering their safety meetings for the following week or their upcoming months. But it's been a great process for us. And it took time for people to get used to it, utilizing a mobile device in some cases, but we've heard many reports that, wow, this is so much easier to complete our daily walks, our weekly inspections, even doing a disciplinary action, even though it's not fun. You can just do that in the field right then and there and create accountability for foremen and other people who need to be held accountable. And then it gives you a reminder as a task of, hey, did you follow up on this? So it kind of really helps get things executed.
Brilliant. What a phenomenal overview. I sincerely appreciate the time the two of you have taken today. From an Acclaimant perspective, we are looking to better enable each of our customers to grow, thrive, and be incredibly successful. And I think this is such a great example of a partnership that yields true success. So we sincerely appreciate the two of you taking the time today to go over your experiences with Acclaimant and the success you've had at Exxel and all the phenomenal success we'll continue to have in the future. So thank you both very much for your time today. Really appreciate everything.
Thank you, Tom.